Well, hello there. Welcome back to another video here at my channel, Dirtbaggery. My name is Bruce, and tonight I'm going to be covering the latest book in a series that, quite frankly, kicks more ass than Donald Trump when he's running against a liberal woman. That series is Land and Sea, and I'm talking about Book 8, which is Tsunami of Turmoil by the great Blaine Pardoe. A man who I've become quite the fan of. Tidal waves have devastated America's west coast as the alien fish strike back to a U.S. nuclear attack. The war effort is thrown off balance as the military and supporting militia try to draw new lines of battle against the invaders. The Extraterrestrial Task Force, ETF, has created a new biological weapon that they hope will stem mankind's losses. Their best asset, Ashton Slade, is caught in a Washington power play and soon finds himself with a target on his back. Compounding matters, other spies have infiltrated the organization. While Cade and Falto fight on what is left of Seattle, a young Asher pilot, Bianca Cordova, comes to terms with the mistakes of her past. A determined NYPD detective struggles as Manhattan is ground into rubble. Survivors of a space mission struggle to stay alive, and a tank crew in North Carolina face their deadliest threat ever. Humanity is fighting to hold on to its coast, buying time to mobilize to fight the alien onslaught. Ashers are proven to be just enough to stem the invasion, but for how long? Meanwhile, mankind faces the chaos of the Tsunami of Turmoil. So, with Book 7, which was Cyclones of Chaos, we got left with a huge cliffhanger that kind of stretched across multiple POVs because it affected a huge portion of the world, and that was the response, as the synopsis stated, to the nuclear strike that humanity carried out against an alien colony, and that response was a massive tidal wave that struck. That's pretty much I think it struck other countries, if I remember correctly, but the West Coast in America got hit really hard. Mount Rainier in Washington is going off. I don't remember. I think that's about it as far as the natural disasters go, but a horrible disaster killed a ton of people, which just puts more guilt on Chief Langman, Victor Langman, who was the one that delivered, well, there was another one, but we won't get into that. But anyway, he delivered the nuke to the alien colony, and he already kind of felt oddly guilty about that, even though he didn't kill humans, he killed aliens. In the last book, you could tell he was kind of struggling with that. And in this book, that now that we see there was a result, there was a reaction to our attack that killed, like, we don't even know how many. A lot of people, millions of people probably died, and he feels responsible for that. So that is a common theme with his part of the story. I'll get a little bit more into him later on. Yeah, needless to say, these books just don't get boring. Like, each one, it seems like it would kind of like get stale, maybe. I don't know, because it's just like, okay, we're constantly fighting the same enemy. Battle lines really aren't going forward or backward. Maybe sometimes, like, like those, like a big tsunami hits and kind of reshapes the whole landscape. But other than that, it kind of feels like there's a lot of stalemates. So it might seem like it would get boring, but it really doesn't. Like, they're always coming up with, it's like humanity's always struggling to adapt and like working from, like, they're on the back of their heels trying to figure out a way to get ahead of the fish. And at the same time, they have to deal with, like, not just new aliens constantly popping up, but the constant BS from other humans, whether it be foreign governments trying to interfere. Most of all the characters are American in the POVs. So, like, China trying to mess with the Asher programs, the Trident programs, or even people inside our own government and the CIA being retarded and doing really stupid power plays in the middle of basically a war against extinction and total annihilation. Which I honestly, like, it sounds like that's probably ridiculous, but it's very believable. Like, it comes across and it doesn't seem absurd in the story. And honestly, yeah, I think that would absolutely be something that humans would do. They would try and see how they could, assuming that this, conflict ends, which I think they're probably short-sighted enough to think it would end, that they come out ahead at the end of it. So I really like that. I mean, other countries are scrambling to incorporate alien technology, and maybe they don't want to share what they've learned with other countries, because if they're successful in repelling the aliens, and then they don't want to like aid their potential enemies. So there's a lot of dynamic things to take into account. Like, it's not just fighting the fish, right? There's the fish, there's new fish all the time. There's human complications, both foreign and domestic. There's just the steady decay of infrastructure. It's slowly crumbling. It's getting worse. Just like a steady decay also to societal norms. Like, everything's just kind of falling apart. And it's just another aspect of the conflict that's making things harder. It's almost like another enemy they have to battle. So it's just, the books are just getting better and better as this world keeps on developing, and they keep pushing onto like, okay, what comes next? What happens next? And honestly, I'm super intrigued. Like, what, like, not even just like what the aliens are going to do, but like what is going on with humanity. They're doing so many wild things. I love these books, dude. I love them so much. We do see in this book, as it's kind of become like most of the new books tend to at least introduce one new species. There was a few species that got introduced in this one, ones we haven't seen before. And one of the endings, I think it was actually the last chapter, very interesting alien gets introduced. I'm not going to say anything about it, but man, it was, I'm really intrigued by that reaction it had with somebody. And I want to see what, I want book 9 to come out. I want to pick it up. It's probably, with how fast Blaine writes, it's probably already done, dude. So who knows how long we have to wait for that? Probably not very long. So Ming Tong, Dr. Ming Tong, who is very instrumental in the Mako, the Trident rig program. In book 7, she was being blackmailed by the Chinese government to basically, they wanted her to leak the Mako, schematics, whatever, information to them so they could copy America's underwater rig project, because they're actually not doing great. They're falling behind, and America's kind of outpacing them. So they're trying to close that gap by doing communist stuff, which is, torturing family members of people who have fled their crap country and gone somewhere else, like America. Nothing wrong with Chinese culture. I'm just saying they're communists, so don't come at me. But yeah, so she gets, in book 7, she gets totally hung out to dry by, she does like what she's supposed to do, right? So she tells the CIA and like the FBI get involved, I believe, and she lets like her product, Captain Warner, I think it's Captain Warner know. Warner, am I getting the names mixed up, dude? I don't know. There's so many POV characters, and he's not a POV in this one, but he was a POV in the original trilogy. So there's a lot of people that I might get names wrong. I want to say it's Kent Warner is his name. He's kind of he's a sailor. I mean, he's an officer, but he's like an engineer too. So he's a good dude. But anyway, he's brought into the fold, and they basically use her as bait to try and get information on who these Chinese spies are. And all they really do is end up getting a lot of their own agents killed, and then they keep pissing off the Chinese because they're kind of one step ahead of their little sting operations. They get Ming's grandma's finger chopped off. That happened in the last book, but in this book we find out that it is indeed her grandma's finger. They did like a blood test on it, and yep, that was her grandma. So she becomes super pissed, feels trapped, nowhere to go. No one's going to help her. She can't trust her own government, even though she's trying to be loyal to her government, but they don't care about her. They don't care about her family. She feels like the Chinese and the Americans are both using her, and nobody cares about her or her family. And she comes to the conclusion that she needs to take the situation into her own hands. And I don't want to give too much of that away, because I don't know. I feel like you could maybe piece out what might happen. In my head, I did guess. I was like, I know who's behind this, and I was right. But I mean, it was still a really good reveal, and the way, because at a certain point, like you would expect you would know who it is. So I don't want to say anything about it. But still, the way that it got to that point, I felt was really well done. Yeah, and that's all I'm really gonna say on Ming, Dr. Ming Tong. But I really liked her story arc. Lieutenant Cordova, Bianca Cordova. She's call sign Blackjack. She was in a Gen 3 Hornet in book 7. And she's like a really lucky character, like luck. That's why her blackjack's her call sign, because she is a pretty lucky person. But she leaned too much into that and started to believe that that was a real thing. And in book 7, she ended up getting her crew pretty messed up, her squad, platoon, whatever. And so her choice was basically to go to court martial or go back through Asher training. And I'm not going to go through all the, because a lot of that kind of came out in book 7, so I'm not going to rehash that. But anyway, in book 8, she's back at Asher school to go back through training. And in the whole book, she's there the whole book, so she doesn't ever leave Asher school. But her story arc is basically her, one, coming more to grips with owning her mistakes, being around people, because it comes out what she did, that she got her squad killed, and so everyone treats her like dog shit. And so she, between that and some pep talks from some wise old officer, she kind of finds a little bit of peace and purpose, and basically she finds what she went to back to Asher training to find, which is her purpose, a new way of thinking, maybe a little less self-focused or self-centered, and more worried about the people around her succeeding, the team succeeding, ensuring other people get by. Which that and her and Captain Georgia Johnson, who's on the space station Thor, kind of have a similar, like they're kind of hot shots, and maybe they ended up with a false sense of ego, pride that made them think maybe they were a little untouchable, and they feel Captain Johnson way less so, but still feels like the guilt. But anyway, so Cordova's whole training is one, like it's a lot of eating humble pie, letting go of ego, and finding a new way forward and learning from past mistakes. So she doesn't go out and fight the fish at all in this book, but it's really all just it's all character arc, really. Like, it doesn't really progress her story part doesn't really progress the plot forward at all. It's just a character, like everything is just character for her portion of the story. So Captain Georgia Johnson, she's an ace pilot, flew with the Space Force. Yeah, she's a Space Force pilot, and she is the one in book 6 who shoots down the alien craft that crash lands in Greenland. So she's super badass. After that, they called her up to go be a part of the special program put on by SpaceX. Elon Musk is in this book. And was it this one? No, he was in the last one, because they're already up there. So in the last book, Thor goes up. Thor's this big space station and has this huge friggin' giant railgun on it called Mjolnir. And its job is to shoot down alien craft, because after book 6, they realize alien crafts are still coming in. They put that up there to shoot down incoming craft. Well, they shoot one down, and then they go to shoot another one. She does hit it, but then it kamikazes into Thor and kills a bunch of the crew, like cripples the station. And so we have to go forward. She has to go forward in the situation, trying to figure out, one, who's still alive, how to keep everybody alive, how to get supplies they need, figure out what all is actually wrong with the ship, what all is still working with the station, not the ship. Trying to get contact with NASA down on Earth. They can't get rescued, they know, for a while, because there's no, they didn't have a backup rocket. They knew that was part of the risk going up, because there was something went wrong. Any chance of somebody going up to get them was months out. So they are fairly well stranded. I don't want to go too much into the actual specifics of what happens on the station, but I mean, it's what you'd expect, right? You're in outer space, you're in a station that's been literally hit and ripped apart by another craft, and all the issues going on with that, with no gravity, injuries, blood clots that can form in the zero gravity from those injuries, food, water, air, fuel, there's so many things you have to worry about. So really, there's another one doesn't really, her and I'm really blabbling. Captain Johnson and Lieutenant Cordova are kind of very similar as far as like story arcs go, where nothing that they got going on really pushes the plot forward at all. It's just kind of a character piece that shows them struggling through. Well, Captain Johnson's situation is way worse. It's and there's a little bit of like, you know, she's worried that she caused it because she took the shot. Maybe she felt like she could do no wrong. Maybe she's wondering if she didn't take the shot, would there have been that collision? You know, but she becomes hyper focused on trying to save not just herself but her whole crew and keeping morale up and trying to find a way to get them home. And that's basically her story arc. And it ends with, her ending was great. I'm excited to see what happens next. Yeah, I'm not gonna go too much more into what her ending is, but it was it's a Hail Mary. Her ending in this book and her crewmate is definitely a Hail Mary type situation. So fingers crossed. So Adam Kane and Falto and the rest of the Fox Hunters, they were in Seattle when the tsunami hit, and so they basically, their squad has kept Seattle from being completely overrun and has actually allowed the army to scramble and set up a defensive and kind of actually hold the city better than they would have if they weren't there. Like, the Fox Hunters are pretty much pivotal in the success the army has had there post tsunami, which unfortunately means that they're so busy, constantly fighting, basically fighting in shifts. They can't go and pursue their main objective, which was to go kill foxes and see how that affected enemy units. They had to put that on the back burner because they were really the main force of the army. Like, they were holding it down. So they couldn't really F off and just focus on foxes. There just wasn't enough people, so they had to step into the fight and fight like regular soldiers, but with cool sniper rifles and power armor. And then they have to deal with, there's a huge issue there with logistics. The tsunami destroyed so many roads and buildings, and it clogged up roads with piles of cars and trash and debris. And the army just is having a hard time getting supplies and troops out there. So like the Asher rigs, the Gen 1s are getting just beat up, and the techs are running out of parts really fast because they weren't expecting to be there very long. It was supposed to be a quick get in there, kill some foxes, record the findings, and get out. And now they're doing prolonged battles. So this is, I'm gonna talk in detail about this part, but they go and Zimmerman is Kane's tech that he was like, no, I'm taking my tech with me. He's not going anywhere. I'm not going. So Zimmerman's with him. He's like, Master Sergeant, we got to get more parts. We're out. Talk to the E4 Mafia. If you get them like a case of whiskey, they found a bunch of, I don't know, it was like 4 suits of armor, that same gen and model and everything, like mothballed in some warehouse. Like, you go get a case of whiskey, and they'll send out the Ashers. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but they actually have to go into a war zone to find liquor because like logistics are just crap. That's why they're going to get 4 battle machines, war machines, for the price of a box of liquor. So anyway, they have to go into Seattle and break into this liquor store, and I think there's just one boss. They end up getting a fight with the boss just to get their hands on some whiskey and get out of there. And definitely going like unauthorized deep into the not deep, but far enough off the beaten path that they should be on, that the battle space commander is like, what are you guys doing out there? So and then I don't know if I want to go too much more on Kane, but because I don't think I'm gonna say too much more on Kane. Kane's like my favorite character, although he's honestly, he might be tied now with the crew of the Whoop-Ass, which I'm going to save that for last. But next up, dude, Ashton Slade. Colonel Ashton Slade. My guy, dude. His story does not make me like the CIA, and I already don't like the CIA, but don't come after me. My God. He's just such a boss. Like, he's so smart. He's like a really selfless guy. He literally just wants to win the war and help humanity, and he's willing to put his life on the line against his own people to save humanity. against corrupt D-bags. I just love his story. His character is great. He's intelligent. He's brave. He's just a good guy, and I really like Slade. I hope his cliffhanger has got my tum-tum in knots, dude. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, his story arc is really him battling with Wilson. Wilson, yeah, the CIA director. The guy is just a scumbag, dude. A weasel, a rat, a snake, whatever you want to call him. He sucks. And Slade rules. So fingers crossed for Slade. Chief Langman, Victor Langman. Homeboy blew up an alien colony and now feels responsible for the tsunami and all the death that ensued from that. And his story arc's kind of wild too. You know, a lot of these are just kind of perspective and character pieces. Because I can't say with real certainty how his story, you know, pushed the plot forward either. But it just gives another perspective, really. And that's something that, like, I don't know. I'm not familiar with any of Blaine's writing outside of Land and Sea. But that's definitely something he does a ton of in Land and Sea. It's just a crap load of perspectives. Even if they're not, like, pushing the plot forward, they are giving us a better, like, picture of the world and all the different like intricacies and the things and not things and how the war and the conflict and all the death and all the different tactics, how they affect people, how they affect the world, how all of that stuff ties together and affects people all across the globe, whether it be people on the coast, people on islands, people in the middle of America, right? You see it from so many different angles. And even if it's not like, you know, moving the plot along, it's expanding the world, the reader's worldview of Land and Sea. And it's given us also a better picture of the characters in that moment in time, or in that POV. And I mean, a good character makes a story, right? So I really like Langman. He's a stoic, hard, loyal dude, like duty bound. Just a rad guy, man. He's not showy. He's not fancy. He is an honest, good man. Some of these guys are just like too good to be true, man. But then they are also flawed and, you know, feel bad for getting a bunch of people killed. O'Malley. Now this guy is interesting. So Detective O'Malley, the NYPD, he is like honorable and good, but also will do what he needs to do to protect his people. And if that means committing a crime, covering up a murder that they did that was not a clean kill, he'll do it. But it's like weird because like he is a good guy, but then he does bad things, but only because he has to. And these, like, when his hand is forced, he'll do a bad thing. But he, like, honestly doesn't want to. And he seems to be a real dog lover. He gets real upset when he sees dead dogs. And he had to eat a dog in this book. So he didn't have to, but he did. He ate one. And he felt bad about it. I can tell you that. But so there's like another shooting happens in this book where some civvies are being retarded, and he doesn't really have a choice. He has to kill them. And he gets to this point where he's like, I don't want to, like, he's like praying to God. He's like, I don't want to kill people that I don't want to fight humans. I want to do something good. I want to help somebody. He's like, God, like, use me in a way that I can be used for your purpose. Like, you know, and then towards the end of the book, he ends up encountering Slade. And I feel like that is kind of the answer to his prayer, is how he comes to work with Slade. And I don't want to go any more into detail on that. Okay. Dr. Willow Sanchez. I don't feel like she had a whole lot of coverage in this book. A couple chapters. I actually do think that her POV does push the plot forward quite a bit, or at least like this, because she's trying to figure out. So the aliens in book 7 came in and like murdered like whole families and like mutilated their bodies and put them in like weird, laid them out in like weird patterns. and then left behind this strange wiener-looking organism. And Dr. Willow Sanchez believes that it was an attempt by the aliens to communicate with humanity. And so she went off, made some crazy AI thing, and almost got. She's very obsessive. So that's one thing I've noticed. Like she seems to be getting more and more obsessive as the story goes. Because like in book 7, she was intrigued, and then she kind of like broke some protocol in order to try and find some answers to questions that she couldn't find going down like the conventional route. And she got her pee slapped a little bit for that, but she wasn't taken off. And eventually she was given authorization for the thing that she wanted, which was the AI program. And she discovers that, yes, she was right. They were trying to communicate. And she goes off, almost starting going like mad scientist. Like other scientists are like, lady, you're kind of pushing the boundary here. Like, this is unethical. We're like, I don't think she's a bad person, but she is becoming obsessed. And I think she might be she's not like an intentionally bad person. She's just so focused on finding the answer she wants to find that she's not really thinking about what she's doing to get the answer from any kind of like ethical standpoint. So she's like I said, she's not in a bunch of the chapters. She's got a few in there, but I find them to be pretty intriguing, and I'm super interested in where her story goes, because I feel like it's going to be really weird and shocking. Okay, so let's wrap up the characters with probably my new favorite guys. And they came in Flotsam of War. They were a short story in that. And then they were in book 7 as well. But that is Daniel Thune, who is a armored driver, like a drive a tank. And his gunner, Sparky, I think his first name's Heath. I don't remember his last name. But, dude, these guys, like, I just love their battle scenes. Like, they're in this, like, entrenched position. They don't even know why they're there for a long time. Eventually they do find out. But, like, they're literally just in this entrenched position that's really not by anything significant. And they're just killing wave after wave after wave of aliens. And they're like, dude, we keep, like, mowing all these aliens down. Why do they keep coming at us? Why are we here? And they're slowly, like, losing armor. Like, other tanks are going down. Ashers are getting wrecked. And they're like, what's going on, dude? Like, it's taking forever. And I don't know, dude. All their scenes, like, the banter between them two, like, they're very tight, but they, like, they're like brothers. They're tighter than brothers. They, like, poke fun at each other, but, it is how it is in the military. I don't know, man. Just, like, the way that their rig fights, how good they are at their jobs, the way they just mow. It's honestly kind of more badass than Asher pilots. They're, like, they take out a lot of fish. Like, I think, they might have a higher body count than a lot of the Ashers that I've read so far. So these guys rock, dude. And I don't know. And the rig is called the Whoop Ass, and this one is the Whoop Ass too, because this is, the last one got blown up. And I don't think I'm going to say much else. And by not saying much else, that might be a spoiler in and of itself. But yeah, just Thune and Sparky, man. They're good peeps. Probably my favorite. Yeah, they're my favorite. The Whoop Ass is so rad. I really hope that is a playable model, the Whoop Ass with Thune and Sparky, and they had you can put like I don't know if it's a tank. I don't really know exactly what the Whoop Ass is. I just know it's a assault vehicle, and you can put like infantry in the back, and the door drops down. They run out. All right, so then the book wraps up. Like, each POV wraps up pretty, like, differently. They're not all the same as far as the feel of how they wrap up. It's like in the last book, it was like the tsunami was such a big event that it kind of impacted a lot of the conclusions for a lot of the characters. But this one, everyone's kind of in a weird spot, in different spots, doing different things. And some of them are massive cliffhangers. Some of them are you just a strong feeling of loss or dread, fear, anger. It kind of just runs like the freaking gambit on emotions. Yeah, great ending. I can't say ending because there's so many POVs. There's like multiple chapters that were an ending, which is cool. It's like there's like how many characters we got here, dude? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's like 9 endings to this book. That's kind of crazy. Needless to say, I can't wait for the next book. I am super jazzed for it, as I'm going to be jazzed for every book that comes down the pipe from Land and Sea. Can't wait. Book 9. I don't know what it's supposed to be called. He might have said it, Blaine, but I don't know. Excited for the Paradise graphic novel to come out and the tabletop war game. They said it's coming out soon, but there's no date. So hopefully, I don't think it's going to be out before Christmas, but hopefully not too much longer, because I want to play that war game and start painting some minis, dude. But anyway, that's all I got for this book in this video. If you've read the book, let me know what your thoughts about it were. Let me know what your thoughts about the video were. Like, share, subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Keep on reading.